Me, 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 me.
You.
We. Oh.
I'm not singing. That's the grip you use when you throw a picnic table, right?
Yeah, the elbow grip.
Yeah, if I want to break my arm.
Everyone is so appreciative, and then I come up and I'll be like, I throw the buzz. And guess what? I'm about to do that right now. I throw the king. I don't know what it's called. I just try to get it in the chains. I'd have to videotape and send it to you guys and see if there's a term for this ridiculous thing that I do. So that everyone can get, as Chris mentioned earlier, and just rail on us and tell us they're so wrong. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 21 of the Zen Disc Golf Podcast. We are so happy to be with you again on this episode that will now make us legally allowed to buy alcohol. I am Patrick McCormick. I am the author of Zen and the Art of Disc Golf, and I am joined by two of my good friends, Mr. Tim Stewart of the Mind Body Disc blog, as well as Chris Bowden of the DG Puttheads blog. Zach has had a ton on his dinner plate as of recently, and if you've listened to some of the earlier casts, you know how he loves his dinner plate. So what I want everyone listening to do is go to Twitter and send him a message at Ticklish Hamster and let him know that he's being missed. And go ahead and drop the hashtag throw plates.
We miss you, Zach.
we do. What a good guy. Many of our listeners may not know this about us, but we all went to different high schools together. Isn't that right?
Sure thing.
Yeah, and that's
Absolutely.
Right. We also have spiritually been longtime best friends out of body. But disc golf does what it always does, and it seems to do, and it unites us with one common goal: spreading the DG gospel of fun, positivity, and success. Hashtag grow the sport. So now it's time for some strategies for success. You know, I was out on the course this week and I stepped out onto a tee pad and noticed something that I've noticed many times before, but only recently started paying attention to. There's often a gap between simply noticing something and paying attention to it, and that gap is called mindfulness. Anyway, a tee pad is usually a concrete or rubber rectangle that only instructs us in one way. Stand here for your first throw. Now, usually the first thing we do once we're on the tee pad is look for the disc catcher to guide us in which direction to throw our disc. And without being able to visualize the catcher, we could arguably throw our disc in any direction we choose in a 360-degree radius. But we don't, right? Because that would be ridiculous. We always take that first step in visualizing that basket. We do this on 18 plus holes around, and over time we play hundreds, sometimes thousands of times a year. But how often do we do this off the course? You see, a basket represents a goal. A tee pad represents taking that first step in reaching that goal. The disc you choose, the grip you use, the throw you make are all parts of planning on the tee pad. In a mere seconds, you've visualized the goal, you've taken your first step to reach that goal, and you've made a plan on how to get there. And this is one of the ways that disc golf is just like life. We do it round after round, but we do it at home or at work? Or do we merely step on our tee pads of life and throw whatever we feel in the moment, many times in the opposite direction of the basket or our goal? And it sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But this is what we do when we have not identified our goals, what we want from life, and a plan to achieve them. A wise man once stated, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And this quote has been attributed to many people over the years, from Ben Franklin to Winston Churchill. And all that means is that many great men knew this simple truth. To win at life, you need to see a goal, have a plan, and take steps to achieve it. Very often we all have these great ideas, and most of us have unlimited wants. But as soon as we have this great idea, our brain, or sometimes our peers even, want to tell us all the reasons we can't have it. It's too hard. I don't have time. I don't have the knowledge. I'll have to make a sacrifice. I'm here to tell you that if you are alive, all you have is time. All you have is time. The things you own, you can't take with you. Death can be considered the end of your time. If you are alive, time is all you have, and it's yours. You just have to budget it like you would a checking account. What do you want to spend it on? What will you spend your time on? That's your goal. Planning and taking action is disc golf. It is life, and that's just another tool for your bag. I just wanted to apologize real quickly for our absence last week. I was ill. Chris, you said you were ill.
I was ill. Yep.
Yeah, and Zach couldn't make it, so that would have left it to be the Timcast. And while
That still might have been pretty good.
While I've been working on developing a way for Tim to actually do the podcast on his own, I don't think he was quite prepared for it last week.
I got an extra hour of sleep out of the deal. How's that work?
So I want to apologize for everybody for our absence last week. We're so happy to be back. And I also want to thank everyone who's been donating to the Zen Disc Golf podcast. We don't quite have 50 people donating yet, but, and I know I said that at 50, we were going to start giving out these gift cards to Infinite Discs. Well, I changed my mind. We're almost there, not quite there. But on our next podcast, I am going to announce a winner regardless. So if you haven't started donating to the podcast, we only ask for $1, $2, $3, nothing more than that. Each dollar that you donate is one entry a month into this $20 gift card to Infinite Discs. So I just want to thank everybody for doing that and trying to keep us going. Everybody's been super cool about that. And and apologize for last week. But let's get on to our main part of our show. So today, guys, I wanted to talk about grip. And this is something an issue that we've kind of skirted in some of the recent episodes, some of the older episodes. But it's also one of those things that is just so personal within the game. It's kind of hard to talk about on a podcast. So it's one of those things you really got to get out on the course and find a mentor to show you grip. But my friends Tim and Chris have recently written some long blogs about grip, and I thought it would be great to bring that to the podcast, and its importance in the game, and also get people to go and check out your blogs and maybe read a little bit more and actually see some pictures. Go to YouTube. Just see some different things. I have a funny way of gripping, usually, no matter whether it's a drive or a putt. So I wanted to hear you guys talk about grip. And I know, Chris, you've got a lot to say about grip. So 3, 2, 1, go.
I do have a lot to say about grip. And in my 13 years playing, I've tried just about every grip that is available or that I could even think of. And the most important thing that I've learned about grip
Have you tried
is
the elbow grip?
The elbow grip.
That's where you put it on the inside of your elbow and try to throw?
No, I did try the armpit grip, though, and I pretty much ended up falling on my face. But if you have some form ideas for the elbow grip, I am more than happy to try it, and I will record it for you.
Just messing. I'm sorry.
That's the grip you use when you throw a picnic table, right?
Yeah, the elbow grip.
Yeah, if I want to break my arm.
Absolutely. I'm sorry if I messed up your flow. Go ahead, buddy.
No, I loved it. I was just going to say the most important thing about grip is you really got to find something that's comfortable for you. You know, grip is very, very subjective and it gets controversial. I've come across very few disc golf topics that get so many people so riled up and want to point fingers and say, hey, you are dead wrong on that.
Wow.
And, you know, sometimes I am dead wrong, but, you know, you really do have to find something that is comfortable for you, especially when putting. I could go on about all sorts of different grips for different throws, but especially, you know, my specialty is putting. When it comes to putting, if you're not comfortable, then you're not going to have your confidence. Mm-hmm. And there's different techniques that you can use when getting into grip, but comfortable grip is most important, and you also have to find something that's very, very consistent. And again, there's so many factors to it. But one of the reasons that grip is so important and that I've spent so much time on it is because your fingers are the very last, or should be the very last piece of your body that touches the disc, unless, like you said, you're using your elbow, in which case I don't have much for you there. But your fingers are the last piece of your body that touches the disc, so it has an awful lot of effect on how the disc flies. So staying away from the actual details of this for right now, if you understand what your grip does to the disc, then you're gonna be a lot better off understanding how the disc is going to fly. And while some people might say that form, that foot stance, all those are most important, I'm not going to say the grip is most important, but it has so much effect on the disc that if you don't pay particular attention to your grip, then you're really missing out.
All right. So when I talk to people about grip, there's a couple of things I focus on, because Chris is absolutely right. As soon as you go in and tell somebody that they should be gripping a disc differently, that's when they'll fight you all day long on that. In a lot of cases, I've been to several pro clinics, and they'll start with grip, and invariably afterwards you'll hear people going, "Well, that might be the grip they use, but that's not the grip I'm going to use." So to try and change somebody's grip, I think for me, I like to focus on the universals of grip. First of all, I think Chris is right. It has to be comfortable for you. If it's effective, there's a lot of grips that can be effective. There's the fan grip, the stack grip, the fork grip, the power grip, the elbow grip, whatever works best for you and feels good. I mean, that's probably what you should continue to use. It's a really weird feeling to change your grip. So if you found something that's within the range of acceptable grips, I mean, you'll watch people, you watch pros, and they'll talk about they use a fan grip for everything, or they'll talk about they'll use a power grip for everything, or they'll talk about Climo uses what they call a modified fork grip. And
I have to look that one up.
As long as you're within, you're not doing something really crazy, there's some universal things that are true across all grips that I think are more important to focus on. And Chris hit the nail on the head. It's the last part of your hand to touch the disc when you throw it. So things like grip strength, having a good, firm, solid grip, whether the pros all agree on what grip to use, they can't all agree. They've all done this example where you put the disc in your hand and you grip it how you would normally grip it, and then they try and pull it out of your hand. And they shouldn't be able to pull it out of your hand. You should have a good, reasonable amount of grip strength on the disc. The more you can grip the disc, the harder you can grip the disc, the faster that disc can get to speed, and the faster it can go at an overall speed before it rips out of your hand. So grip strength directly correlates to distance. So it's important to have a good amount of strength. And if you've got a grip that doesn't allow you to put a lot of strength on the disc, or a lot of pressure on the disc, you're costing yourself distance. Sure. By the same token, too much grip strength loses control. So there's a balance between control and grip strength. And that's why, for me personally, I use what's called a modified stacked grip, which is kind of a hybrid, where it's not a full power grip where all my finger pads aren't on the inside of the rim. One of them is, and then the rest of my fingers are kind of stacked on top of it.
Okay.
My pinky is on the rim, my ring finger's on top of my pinky, my middle finger's on top of my ring finger, and then my index finger is on the rim, and then I'm kind of squeezing down on that with my thumb above. It's a little hard to describe in audio, but for me, that particular grip provides a really good blend between power and control. And the reason I think that's important and why I like using it is one thing that stuck with me, another universal thing for grip that I think most pros agree on, is outside of putting, I really strongly feel you should use the same grip for every throw. This is one of those controversial topics, but it drives me nuts when people say, well, I use a power grip for super long drives, and then I use this other grip for control drives, and then I use a fan grip for up shots, and for me, the more variables you can remove from your game, the more consistent you're going to be. So I took a tip from Dave Fehlberg a long time ago in a clinic I took with him, and he really recommended find one grip you're comfortable with and use that for all of your shots. Right. And I tell you, that's really, really paid off over time. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Right. Because when you really think about it, the more elements that you add, the more you have to practice, the more time you've got to spend practicing all those elements. And that's one thing I was going to say earlier is that it's personal. Grip is very personal because of comfort. And we've mentioned the word comfort many times. But comfort is personal. You know, people have different hands, different. Even Zach has mentioned before that he doesn't feel like his hands are sticky enough, or he said either they're too sticky or not sticky enough. I can't remember which one he said, but it brought up a good point. You know, even moisture in your hands or in the air can change your comfort level with things such as grip, and so it's personal because it's got to be personally comfortable. But with whatever you're personally comfortable with, you have to practice. And so if you do have a multitude of grips, you've got to practice all those grips. So if you have one grip that you practice, say, for 2 hours a day, every day, but you've added 2 more grips, do you have to now practice 6 hours a day every day? Because you've got that many more elements. Now, I do want to piggyback on something that you said earlier about grip strength. And so we have different grip styles, but we also have grip strength. And you mentioned having a lot of pressure on your grip so that somebody can't remove it from your hand. Now, my question for you, and I also have a response, is what about putting grip? Because my putting grip is much looser than my driving grip, and you could rip a putter out of my hand before I get to, do a 20-foot putt.
For sure.
So as on the tee, we may have a lot of pressure, but as we get closer to the basket, as it becomes less about power and more about finesse, can we agree that the grip starts to loosen?
Not only does it start to loosen, like Chris said, I use a completely different grip when I putt. For my putting, it's all about what I call finger spring. For my style of putting, most of my distance for putting and most of my putt strength comes from springing off my fingers. So it's not anywhere close to the same grip as I use to throw the disc with. I don't know. What about you, Chris? How do you use it? You sound like you use a completely different grip as well, right?
I do. First, I want to make sure I remember this. Last pod, you said that you use a pitch putt style. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yep. So that'll be very different than what I do. I do the standard spin putt with. I'm a right-handed spin putter, and I put my right foot out front. So I put a lot of wrist into my spin, and then my fingers don't put as much spring as someone who's doing a pitch or a push putt, but they still add some extra spin on there. But that highlights a very important aspect of putting is putting styles. There's so many different putting styles that are so vastly different that they all require different types of grips that are appropriate. And when you look at people's driving and approaching styles, sure, there's definitely different styles, but the styles don't typically differ as much as putting styles do, unless you're talking about forehand or overhand, which obviously those grips are completely different. But if you talk about a push putt where you might be holding the disc back further in your hand, you might need to have your back fingers on the flight plate more so you can get more spring. As Tim said with his pitch putt, he needs his fingers for springing the disc up. Even for the spin putt, I put my fingers slightly different. I don't spread my fingers all the way across in a fan grip. I bring my fingers almost in like a claw on the way back toward my palm, and that way I can get a little bit better grip on it and control the putter as it comes out. So there's a lot of different styles, but it comes back to what you said is Patrick, is the practicing. So Patrick, I want to know, what kind of putting do you do?
I don't know what it's called. I just try to get it in the chains. I'd have to videotape and send it to you guys and see if there's a term for this ridiculous thing that I do.
So what kind of grip do you use for it?
I use a fan grip for putting. Fingers spread real wide. Usually, but I kind of alternate between the turbo putt and the regular putt. For me, we talked about that earlier. I know that's something that means that you've got to practice so much more. Like I said, that could be a bad thing, but hey, you've also got to practice every different skill that you might have to use on the course. And so obviously a turbo putt grip is going to be way different than a regular grip. It's a completely different thing. But yeah, off the tee, I usually I call it a modified power grip. It's between a power grip and a fan grip. If there's a term for that, throw it out there. I'm not really sure what it is.
Usually, I think they call that a modified fan grip.
There it is. There, I mean, I could take photos. We could all take photos if you wanted to, and we could throw them in the blog of our different grips, which would be probably pretty interesting.
Yeah, I can send one out for sure.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so I'll include that in the blog, and you can actually see the grips that we use, so that everyone can get, as Chris mentioned earlier, and just rail on us and tell us they're so wrong. Yeah, especially my flick grip. Everybody would be like, "That is wrong." Because I use a really weird flick grip. I actually cross my fingers underneath the disc. But hey, you know what you said?
Okay, I got to see that one.
Yeah, so it's actually, but I get more power out of my flick than any other shot. So you know what? You can tell me it's wrong all day long, but it puts the disc where I want it, and that's what's key.
One of the things that a lot of people mean when they say what the proper grip is the potential for you to get better. And that's one of the things that I've seen with a lot of the players that I've got started over the years I've been playing is people can find different grips that'll work very well for them. And if you're happy with your game the way it is, you might be able to keep using that same grip. But a lot of the time, for example, when I recently watched a video on driving forehand, and I can't remember which pro was the one doing this one, but he said that you really need to have at least two fingers touching the rim or supporting the rim. And I think a large part of that is the stability and consistency, but also because that's going to enable you to eventually drive further and drive better. For many years, I only had one finger on my forehand drives, and I found I was doing a really good job, but I did cap out on my distance and my the versatility that I had in my forehand drives. So by changing up my grip, while my straight down the fairway forehand didn't necessarily get better, it allowed me to have a lot more versatility, a lot more shots, anhyzers, big hyzers with my forehand. So a lot of the time, the reasons people suggest certain types of grips is because that will give you a broader range and allow for you to get for your game to get better overall.
I do want to make one just general assessment how this somebody suggesting that you change your grip. It almost seems like that needs to come decently early in your game before you've gotten too used to something.
It should. It's definitely the best.
Yes. I want to make a connection here because something you just said just brought this to light in my head. Most people know that I am a medic firefighter. Actually, I'm a lieutenant now, but I was a medic firefighter for many years. And when I first started learning how to do IVs in the back of a moving ambulance, and what that is most people should know, but if you don't, that's okay, is to get a IV catheter into someone's vein in order to deliver medications or fluid. Now, this is a very finesse skill. So why they give it to firemen who love to break things, I'm not sure, but they do, and that's part of our job. So I found that very early in my career, I was given direction about these IV skills from so many different directions that I was missing IVs a lot. And part of it was when you miss one, your confidence starts to go down a little bit. When you miss another, down a little bit more, and miss it a little. And, confidence is the adversary of fear. Once that fear level starts to go up and that confidence starts to go down, you miss more and more and more and more. And this occurs out on the course as well. But something that you said made me think of this, what somebody told me in the back of an ambulance. Anytime you're sitting there and you've picked out a vein and that's the site that you're going to go for, if somebody walks up and goes, "No, you should go for this," don't listen to that because it's going to mess you up.
Very true.
But you also kind of have to take into account that if I've got a real person I'm about to stick a needle in their arm, this is more like a tournament. It's not like practice. You know what I'm saying? Well, medicine is a practice, but but this is the real thing. So that brings up, don't change your grip in a tournament. Don't look at a bunch of, and we may have talked about this before, But let's say you've been practicing and practicing and practicing, and the night before you go and look up a bunch of YouTube videos on how to get extra distance for that tournament tomorrow. Bad idea. To try to change something, right before you're going out in the real world. What's your assessment on that?
I completely agree. There's times to execute and there's times to practice. And when we're talking specifically about grip, my favorite time to change my grip is in the off season, which is, just about over right now, so that I can just hold the disc during the winter when I'm sitting inside at my couch, at my computer, wherever. I'll hold my disc, my driver, my putter, whatever it be, and start getting used to the grip. So as soon as I can get out on the field, I can start practicing it. And I've already got some muscle memory built up. And then throughout the season, I can work on it. There have been times where I've changed a grip in the middle of the season, but it's never before important events. I typically introduce it slowly. The problem with that, obviously, is if you're introducing it slowly, you have less time to work on your primary grip. But if you work on it during the off season, then you can focus on it during the off season. You can start the season with that new grip, or that goes for pretty much any disc golf aspect, form characteristic, really. But you can start working on it at the beginning of the season. And sometimes, I think you're right, I think we've mentioned it before in this, where sometimes if you change something, you might actually take a step back as far as your score goes. Mm-hmm. But if it's for the better of your game, ultimately, it might be the best decision to take a few sacrificed scoring rounds at the beginning and then build up over the season. And by mid to end of the season, you'll be better than you were the season before.
Sure.
I would say not only when you change your grip, but I would look at who you get that advice from. A lot of people I've seen out there. Oh man, I tell you, I've seen some really funky. I played with a guy for a long time who used a one finger backhand grip, and he could throw pretty far. And the number of people's games he screwed up by telling them they needed to move to a one finger backhand grip was just it was kind of disheartening. So I would say who you learn from. Some random guy in the course, though that might be able to play well, isn't necessarily going to give you the best advice. So one of the things that's one of my goals for this year on my list of things to kind of check off is I want to take at least 2 pro clinics this year. One of which, Philo Braithwaite just won the Gentleman's Club Classic out in Nevada, and he's got a website, Team Philo, that I found. And he gives lessons, and he's definitely somebody on my list. If he comes in our area, I want to make sure I find one of his clinics. But it doesn't have to just be him. Most pros, as part of their income and to support their tour, will give clinics or give lessons, and they're typically pretty reasonable. So, it's worth the $20 or $30 typically, or a lot of times it's free. I went to a Johnny McRae clinic last year that was free, and have them look at your grip and have them give you some feedback from people who actually know what the heck they're talking about. And then once you get that feedback, like Chris was saying, practice that grip. And one of the ways I found to practice is just keep a disc in your car. As you're driving, put your grip on the disc and put it on and off, and you can grip the disc a few hundred times on the way to work, and really get something down. So I would say look at who you're getting that from. Once you pick a grip that you're going to stick with, just commit to practicing it, and then don't change it.
Right.
Tim, you just mentioned keeping a disc in your car. I actually wrote a really short article on that probably 3-4 months ago called Putter Comfort. And the whole point of that article, very short article, was keep your putter with you at all times. And that'll go for drivers, mid-ranges, whatever.
It was a 1-sentence article.
Yeah, pretty much 1 sentence. It might have been half a sentence, actually.
All times.
It's just keeping your discs with you. It, as I said before, it builds that muscle memory. But the whole article was wherever you are at work, at your computer desk. And I specifically left out driving because I didn't want somebody to get in an accident and then say it was my fault. But if you're watching television, if you're at your computer, wherever you are, keep a disc with you and just hold it, building the muscle memory, especially if you're working on a new grip. So that's great advice.
Awesome.
You're right. I only drive with my hands, 2 hands on the wheel. I never forget what I said. I never ever have a disc in my hand when I'm driving. I don't know what I was talking about.
Well, see, the way that I view it is you have to practice reality, and so I only drive while texting. Yeah,
you're a firefighter, so I hope everyone knows that you're not being serious.
As long as you're not practicing your grip and texting and driving at the same time, just pick 2 of the 3 and you're good.
And eating
Unless
a double
you're driving
cheeseburger.
on the disc golf course and trying to throw as you're driving, that may or may not be acceptable. Don't quote me on that. We'll have to do some research.
So I want to close the grip it and rip it part of this with something that I thought of while you were speaking, Tim, and that is be careful who your mentors are, and choose mentors who are good, because a lot of people talk a lot, and you can find this anywhere in life. Always follow the people who are successful at what you want to succeed in. This is very important because recently there's been a commercial on TV, and if I get a lot of hate for putting this in the podcast, so be it, but here it comes. There is this hilarious commercial with a certain celebrity advertising for a certain weight loss company. Okay? And she says, "I love bread. I love bread." Have you seen this commercial?
I have not.
It's on Hulu.
I've heard of it. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. If you're going to someone for weight loss advice who's overweight, you're probably looking for success in the wrong direction. Especially when they're giving you advice contrary to what you might not seem correct. Such as, the only way to get better at driving while texting is driving while texting. I love bread. I love bread. I eat bread every day. This person can sue me for a lot. I don't care. I'm leaving it in there. Choose your mentors wisely, no matter where you are on the course, at home, at your place of work, business, whatever. Look for the people who are succeeding in what you want to succeed in and who are good at it. Follow those people. And that's my best advice for getting better.
What you're saying is if you see somebody hitting trees and swearing on the disc golf course, you probably want them as your mentor. They're probably pretty good, right?
Actually, you want to develop yourself enough to be their mentor to change the world.
I love it.
Well, guys, now we talked about grip. Let's talk about what we're gripping, what we're ripping. What are you throwing there, Chris?
I'm gripping and ripping the Castoplast Ricoh, fairly new release. Surprise, I got another putter here. This one, the Ricoh, is one of the best all-around putters I've ever thrown. I've only been throwing it for a couple of weeks, but I feel that strongly about it. Now, I'm typically a player who throws multiple putters, but if I were to throw one single putter, the Ricoh would probably be my front runner at this point. It comes in a K3 plastic, which is one of my favorite base plastics. It's not too hard, not too soft, pretty grippy. I love it. The Ricoh has a fairly low profile, and it's got a rounded nose and a concave top. The concave top's not as pronounced as the Berg, but it's there, and it helps my grip, and it feels great, especially for my small hands. There is a small but wide bead at the bottom. I don't typically like beads, but this one is pretty subtle, so I don't really notice it much. The Ricoh is a 3-4 -1-2. So it's on the faster side of putters, and it displays a significant amount of glide. So a lot of these all-around putters do use a lot of extra glide, but a lot of them turn more than I prefer, especially when you're putting some torque on it, throwing some approaches, and especially drives. But the Ricoh handles it just fine. I can throw approaches and drives. I can throw straight. I can throw anhyzer lines and hyzer lines. It holds just about any line that I want, and it can handle the torque. That also does mean that it's a little bit more stable inside 50. So it holds most lines inside 50 for the majority of the flight, but then toward the end, it does have a little bit stronger fade than some more neutral putters. So you'll probably notice that if you throw it. I don't mind it at all. I prefer just a little bit of that extra fade for the control, so it doesn't get away with me, especially with putters that have extra glide. The fade for me helps control it. it does handle the wind pretty well for a disc with this much glide. A lot of glidey putters will catch the wind and just go nuts, but the ricoh is very, very consistent, and we'll be getting a review out on the ricoh pretty soon as all this snow here in Michigan melts. We haven't had time to do as many long drives, but that'll be out soon, and I highly recommend trying a ricoh. It is a phenomenal putter.
You are all about the Castoplast too.
I am. I'm a Castoplast fanboy. I thought, okay, cool. It's a new company. I'll try it. And every time I get one disc, I got to get the disc in all their plastics and try more. I've fallen in love with Castoplast.
Right on. What are you throwing, Tim?
I'm throwing the Latitude 64 Fury, and it's an understable fairway driver. And last year I started working on a shot that ever since I started playing 12 or 13 years ago, one of the things that I saw the pros do on videos that just mesmerized me was the throw that has a late turn right. And it would just amaze me. You'd watch Barry Schultz go out in the woods with his beat up rocks, and he'd throw a shot that went dead straight and then turned right down, down a ways. It turned right at the end of its flight. And last year I kind of committed to myself with the redesign of our home course. That's a necessary shot at this point for me. So it's really come in handy, and the disc that has really helped me start to learn that shot is the Latitude 64 Fury, because it's a super understable disc. So you can play with where in its flight it starts to turn right by how much hyzer you start the throw with. So the more hyzer it starts with, the later in the flight it'll actually turn, because it takes a while of turning up to flat before it actually starts going right. And the neat thing about this disc is when you start it on a hyzer, it doesn't start going left. It goes pretty much straight for the beginning part of its flight, regardless of how much hyzer you put on it. So it's neat because you can, if you're shooting at an opening in the woods down the ways, and then right through the opening, it starts to turn right, but you have to go straight into the opening. That's one of those shots it's really, really hard to do. But I got to tell you, when you do it, you want to do a little dance of celebration, because it's just neat. It's really cool. It's a really fun shot to throw. And it also impresses the heck out of people watching, I got to tell you that. So every once in a while, that disc allows me to throw that shot. And the more I work with it, the more I'm able to actually dial that shot in. So if you're trying to work on your turnover shots, this is a great disc to do it with. And the nice thing is it doesn't take a lot to turn it over. So you don't have to go out and heave it 100%. You can get it to turn and still throw kind of at a controllable 60, 70, 80% power. So it's nice to be able to teach you that turnover shot. So if anybody's looking to learn the turnover shot, even if it's not just the late turnover, just any type of a turnover shot, or even if you're having trouble learning the hyzer flip or getting a disc to flip up from a hyzer, this is a great disc to kind of try that with. And it's a great, what I call a teaching disc. It really does a great job, because if you don't have good form, it won't do what you want it to do. So it'll help you have good form. It'll help teach you the turnover shot. It'll help teach you a hyzer flip. It's a really good all-purpose, all-around disc, and I've had it in my bag for about 2 years now. I really like throwing it.
Right on. So that's the Latitude 64 Fury.
The Fury.
Not the furry.
Not the furry. That's different. That's what I do off the golf. Oh, never we should talk about that.
I do want to say something that's interesting about what you just said. I want to extrapolate this information. You mentioned that basically you were acquiring discs in your bag according to the courses you play.
Yes, very much so. My home course was redesigned by Chuck Kennedy a couple years ago, and it went from an 18-hole mediocre course to 36 holes of extremely punishing, challenging championship-level disc golf.
So that's something that you might want to think about, listeners, when you're out there thinking about the next purchase you're going to make, the next disc that you're going to buy, is the actual courses that you play. What line that you haven't been able to get from your bag that you might be searching for. And I know and Infinite does not pay me to, they help out with the podcast, and they help out with our giveaways and some of our giveaways and things like that. They don't pay me to say this, but if you do go to their website, you're actually able to kind of key in, if you understand the flight ratings, and you're able to actually throw at the correct method, helps you key in on the path that you need to kind of shot shape. So can I just say something? You guys are the J.R.R. Tolkiens of disc descriptions. You guys are
so nice.
Long and boring? Is that what you're saying?
Just so descriptive. Do you guys write this down the night before, and do you have notes or something?
I
think
do
it's just
take a couple of notes before we come in, but I take notes for about the first half, and then I just let myself ramble until I think that you guys are bored.
Because I think you guys go on, you give these great descriptions, and everyone is so appreciative. And then I come up and I'll be like, I throw the buzz. And guess what? I'm about to do that right now. I throw the king. And so, so I'm throwing the West Side King. And this is a disc I've had in my bag for a little while. It doesn't come out all the time. As we were talking before the podcast, we're in episode number 21 right now. So when we get to episode number 367, and then about 18 years from now, when we get to episode 367, our bags are going to have to be 367 discs long. So if there's a bag manufacturer out there making them that way, you're going to have to, you're going to have to let us know. We're going to have to start throwing your ads in there for disc bags that big.
fifth wheel golf cart.
Yes. So I love the King. I love, the Latitude 64 West Side stuff, as Tim does. I can't say a bad thing about any disc I've ever thrown from them. I love the elastoplastic. That's probably my favorite thing about any of the line. It's just that plastic. It feels good. And it's that plastic you can almost like bend in half and it just pops back. It's like this space age alien, Roswell kind of plastic. For some reason that really intrigues me. I really do like it for my drivers especially. But I'm talking about the King here, and the King's a high-speed driver. It's a speed 14, glide 5, turn neg 1, fade 4. And so you have a really fast disc with a whole lot of glide and very, very little turn. So you can really get this disc out there, and you can rely heavily on that fade 4, that it's going to give you a nice a left-hand turn there at the end if you're throwing backhanded. I can't say enough good stuff about the West Side. If Zach were here, he'd say, I like the pictures. He's a big fan of the West Side disc stamps, I think, as we all are. They always do a pretty cool job with that. But the disc, my King always flies exactly predictably how I want it to and how I throw it. And I just don't have a Tolkien explanation of why I like this disc. It's just cool.
You're just drawn to it.
It's just cool. It's got a king on it. Feels powerful. Hey guys, let's give some stuff away.
Sweet.
Let's do. Hey, Chris, how did your giveaway go last week?
Our giveaway went very well. It was won by Brian Marchand, who is actually also a Michigan native. So we shipped it right down the road. Giveaway went very, very well. Got lots of participation, and I just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining. That was a lot of fun.
Guys, Zig Ziglar always says you can have everything in life that you want if you will just help other people get what they want. And so we try to live by that here at the Zen Disc Golf Podcast, and everything we do, we give away a lot of stuff. So let's give away a book first. Today, our book giveaway comes from a review from Amazon, which all of our book giveaways do. If you leave a 5-star review for Zen and the Art of Disc Golf on Amazon, I will sign a copy of Zen and the Art of Disc Golf and mail it to you. So today the review comes from Ross Holt from January 23rd. Very simple, very mind-opening, and is definitely going to change my thought process on and off the tee. Gotta go throw. That's all they said. They got themselves a free signed book from me. Okay? So, again, leave a 5-star review. I pick one at random every time we do a podcast, and I mail away a signed book. Pretty good deal, huh, guys?
Pretty
Not too
sweet.
bad. All right. The next giveaway I like to give away, I usually give away a disc, but I've kind of run out of discs, but I do have a whole box of minis. And so I'm going to send
Giving away a box of minis.
not quite a box.
How about bread? Are you giving away bread this week?
I love bread. I love bread. Okay.
Free bread for all, my friends.
As long as you are ducks. Okay. This week, I'm going to be giving away a couple minis to K-Mood, who left us a 5-star review on iTunes for the podcast. He says, I look forward to every episode that comes out. It's awesome to be able to listen to great disc golfers. Well, I don't know about that.
I appreciate it. I'm flattered.
Woo! Woo! We made it to the next level.
They
Rewind.
haven't actually seen us on the course. So.
We're going to post pictures of our grip, but no videos of our game. How's that?
Yes, that sounds great. Oh, man. It's awesome to be able to listen to great disc golfers who love this game. Now, that's true. We do love this game, and we do want to grow the sport. The tips I get from the show helps my mental game as well as my form and my drive to practice. It's also very entertaining. I know the show will be as well. Great job, guys. I'll definitely donate to the show to keep it going. K-Mood. I'm going to be sending you a couple of official Zen Disc Golf minis to thank you for that 5-star review on iTunes. Just email me, both of you, both K-Mood and Ross Holden. Email me at zendiscgolf@gmail.com with your address, and I'll be happy to get those out to you. Well, do you guys have anything else that you'd like to talk about today?
I'm spent.
Spent.
Good to go.
All right. Well, everyone listening in, make sure that you're following us on all of our super interesting blogs. Basically, you can stop following all the news blogs out there on the internet. Get all your news from Mind Body Disc blog, DG Putthead's blog, and ZenDiscGolf.com. Pretty much like the millennials do, they get all their news from the Daily Show anyway. So just cut all that out and just follow our blogs, and you get everything newsworthy that you need. But most importantly, just throw. Throwing bread. But, it usually takes me about 8 hours to edit this episode. Just like completely lost my train of thought, deleting all that. Go ahead, Tim.
What was that?